Right now, somewhere near you, there's a person whose bank balance just changed. A promotion came through. A side business finally started paying real money. A new job doubled their salary overnight. From the outside, nothing looks different. Same house, same car, same face at the grocery store. But something has shifted quietly, invisibly, in a way most people around them will never see. And the moment that person opens their mouth and tells the wrong people, everything can start to unravel. Because here's what nobody warns you about when money finally starts flowing in. The danger isn't losing the money. The danger is talking about it. Picture this. A woman gets a raise at work, a big one, the kind she's been chasing for years. She's thrilled. She tells her sister. Her sister tells her mother. Within a month, relatives she hasn't spoken to in years are calling to catch up. Old friends suddenly need a small loan, just until next month. Her landlord mysteriously raises the rent the very next renewal. Nothing about her actually changed. Only the information did. That story sounds unusual. It isn't. The moment people discover you have money, they stop reacting to who you are. They start reacting to what they believe you have. And that's where most financial problems quietly begin. Most people are taught that success should be announced. A bigger paycheck, a promotion, a new stream of income. Surely that's something to celebrate out loud, something to share, something to be proud of in front of everyone who knows you. Clears throat. But the people who actually keep their wealth and grow it often play a completely different game. They understand a simple, uncomfortable truth. Every dollar someone knows about is a dollar that invites an opinion, a request, or a reaction. Silence isn't secrecy. Silence is protection. And protection, it turns out, is the one skill almost nobody teaches you when the money starts arriving. Think about how quickly this pattern repeats itself. Someone gets a bonus and mentions it at dinner. Within days, a family member hints they could use a little help. Someone starts a business and casually posts about the first big client. Within a week, 3 acquaintances reach out asking for the same quick favor. None of these people are necessarily bad. Most of them aren't trying to take advantage on purpose. They're simply responding to new information the way people always respond to new information, by adjusting what they think they're entitled to ask for. The less people know, the less they ask. The less they ask, the more you actually get to keep. Here's the strangest part. It's almost never a stranger who causes the damage. It's the people closest to you. A stranger doesn't know your income changed, so a stranger has no expectations to adjust. But a sibling, a close friend, a parent, they remember exactly what your life used to look like, and they notice the second something shifts. That memory is what turns a simple update into a source of tension. You're not just sharing news with them. You're quietly rewriting the terms of the relationship, whether you meant to or not. And once those terms change, they rarely change back. So what exactly should you never say out loud when the money starts coming in? Not because you're being dishonest, not because you're ashamed of what you built, but because some information, once released into the world, can never be pulled back. Once it's out, it changes how every single person around you behaves, sometimes for years. Let's go through it. Number 1, never tell people exactly how much you make. This sounds obvious, and yet almost everyone breaks this rule eventually. Usually not on purpose. It slips out in a joke, in a moment of pride, in a conversation that felt private but wasn't. The problem isn't the number itself. The problem is what the number does once it's out there. It becomes a measuring stick. Coworkers start comparing themselves to it, quietly resenting a raise you earned through years of work they didn't see. Family members calculate what they think you should be able to spare, as though your income were a shared resource the moment it became known. Friends quietly start seeing you differently, even if they'd never admit it out loud. Money, once quantified, changes how people treat you, and it rarely changes it for the better. Keep the number vague. Keep the number private. Let people guess, and let them guess wrong. Consider 2 co-workers who get promoted in the same year. One shares the exact new salary the day it's official. The other simply says, "Yeah, it went well," and changes the subject. 6 months later, the first co-worker is fielding awkward comments in every team meeting, quietly resented by people who used to be friendly. The second co-worker is still just seen as the person who's doing fine. Same raise. Completely different year. Number 2, never tell people you're debt-free or sitting on savings. There's a strange thing that happens the moment people learn you have money set aside. You stop being a person to them and start being a resource, a safety net, a backup plan for someone else's emergency. A cousin needs help with rent this month. A friend has a business idea that just needs a small investment to get off the ground. A relative assumes you can co-sign something without asking whether you're comfortable with the risk. None of them think of it as taking advantage. In their minds, they're simply asking someone who clearly has room to help. The quietly wealthy understand this instinctively. Savings stay private, not because they don't trust people, but because trust and financial exposure are two very different things. And confusing them is how discipline quietly gets drained away one favor at a time. It doesn't even have to be a large sum to trigger this. Mention that you've got a little cushion saved up and watch how quickly the conversation shifts from casual to specific. How much? Could you spare some, just for a few weeks? What started as a small, proud moment of financial stability turns into a negotiation you never agreed to have. Number 3, never tell people about your investments while they're growing. Imagine two versions of the same person. One announces every stock pick, every property purchase, every crypto trade the moment it happens, eager for the validation of watching people react. The other says nothing until the position has already paid off, if they mention it at all. The first person invites commentary before the outcome is even known. Every dip becomes a conversation. Every gain becomes a request for advice. Or worse, a request for a cut of the upside they had no part in creating. The second person lets the investment breathe. Think of a plant. Dig it up every week to check the roots, and it never gets the chance to grow. Wealth compounds the exact same way. It needs to be left alone, undisturbed, for far longer than most people are comfortable staying quiet. There's also a quieter cost to announcing an investment early, one that has nothing to do with other people at all. The moment you tell someone about a position, you've made yourself accountable to their opinion of it, not just your own. Every time it dips, you're not just watching a number. You're bracing for the text that says, "Are you okay? Isn't that thing down?" That kind of pressure has talked more people out of good decisions than any market crash ever has. Number 4, never tell people your long-term financial goals. This one is less about jealousy and more about psychology, your own psychology. The moment you announce a goal, whether it's a paid-off house, a 7-figure portfolio, or early retirement at 45, your brain gets a small reward just from saying it out loud. You feel like progress is happening even when nothing has actually changed yet. That feeling is dangerous because it can quietly replace the discipline required to get there in the first place. Goals are like wet concrete. Before they harden into results, every opinion, "that's a bit ambitious," every well-meaning warning from someone who never tried, leaves a fingerprint that changes the shape of what you were building. Protect the goal long enough to let it set. Explain it later if you explain it at all. Two friends decide separately that they want to retire by 50. One posts about it, talks about it at every gathering, turns it into a running joke among the group. The other tells absolutely no one and simply adjusts her spending in silence. A year later, the first friend has quietly abandoned the goal, half embarrassed to bring it up anymore. The second friend is still going because no one ever gave her a reason to doubt it, mainly because no one ever knew. Number 5, never tell people when you're about to make a big purchase. Not because it's anyone's business, but because announcing a big purchase invites a flood of unsolicited opinions right at the exact moment your decision is most vulnerable to being talked out of it or talked into something worse. Someone will tell you to get the bigger house instead. Someone else will tell you it's a complete waste of money. Someone will compare it to what they bought last year and make you second-guess a perfectly reasonable choice you'd already thought through carefully. The quietly wealthy make the decision first, privately, based on their own numbers and their own life, not a group chat's opinion. They mention it only after it's already done, if at all, and by then there's nothing left to argue about. This applies just as much to modest purchases as it does to major ones. Mention that you're thinking about a nicer apartment, and suddenly everyone has a strong opinion about neighborhoods, square footage, and whether now is really the right time. Most of these opinions aren't based on your finances at all. They're based on someone else's comfort level with change, projected directly onto your decision. Number 6, never tell people you got a raise or a windfall the moment it happens. There's a strange window right after a financial jump where the temptation to share the news is at its highest. It feels good. It feels earned. It feels like something worth telling people about. But this is also the exact window where habits get set for good or bad. Announce it too early, and suddenly there's social pressure to celebrate, to upgrade something, to treat people, to prove the raise was real by spending it visibly. Let the extra income quietly go to work first, into investments, into savings, into debt payoff, long before anyone else even knows it exists. By the time people find out, if they ever do, the money has already done its job and can't be talked out of your hands. Number 7, never tell people how you actually spend your money. This might be the most overlooked one of all. It's not just about hiding wealth. It's about hiding the boring, disciplined decisions that quietly build it. Because here's what's strange. People don't usually get uncomfortable when you spend money on something impressive. They get uncomfortable or dismissive when they learn how carefully you actually think about the small things. Driving an older car on purpose long after you could afford new. Skipping upgrades that everyone else considers completely normal. Choosing not to keep up with a lifestyle your income could technically support. Share that, and people rarely see discipline. They see something to judge, something to mock, something that makes them feel judged in return, even when that was never your intention. The quietly wealthy let their spending stay invisible, not because it's a secret, but because explaining it to people who aren't building the same thing rarely goes anywhere good. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. None of these 7 rules are really about secrecy for its own sake. They're about protecting something far more fragile than the money itself. Momentum. The early stages of any financial jump, a raise, a windfall, a new stream of income, are the most fragile stretch of the entire process. Announce too much, too early, and you invite expectations, comparisons, requests, and doubts before you've even had a chance to build anything real. Stay quiet, and the money gets to do what money is actually supposed to do. Compound undisturbed for years without a single outside opinion slowing it down. There was a man who quietly moved into a much higher income bracket in his early 30s. Nobody at his job knew. His own parents didn't know the real number and never asked. He kept driving the same car, kept living in the same modest apartment for another 2 years, kept showing up exactly the way he always had, ordering the same coffee, wearing the same jacket. People assumed nothing had changed for him at all. What they didn't see was the aggressive investing happening quietly in the background, month after month, completely unannounced, completely unremarked upon. By the time anyone noticed anything different about his life, it wasn't because he told them. It was because the results had become impossible to hide. That's the real lesson hiding inside all 7 of these rules. Wealth doesn't need an audience to be real. It only needs time, privacy, and the discipline to let it grow without interruption from people who mean well, but don't understand what they're interrupting. The people most eager to announce every financial win are often the ones who end up with the least to show for it later, because the applause becomes the reward instead of the result. The people who say nothing, who let their bank accounts do the talking years down the line, are usually the ones who end up actually free. So the next time your income jumps, whether it's a raise, a new job, or a business finally starting to take off, resist the urge to tell everyone right away. Not because you should be ashamed of it, not because the people around you are bad people, but because some things only grow correctly in the dark, away from opinions, away from requests, away from expectations that were never yours to begin with. Let it compound first. Let it become real first. And when people eventually notice on their own, years from now, you won't need to have said a single word.